Maya Solon stepped off the shuttle into the gleaming corridor of the Eon Research Station. The station floated above a vast silver desert, its towers rising like glass spires into twin suns. A soft, steady hum filled the air, the sound of countless machines working in harmony. Maya felt her heart flutter with a mixture of awe and nervous hope. She came not as a conqueror, but as a messenger, bearing a simple gift from Earth that might bridge worlds. In her hands, she held a pale blue ceramic sphere, smooth and warm to the touch. Its surface shimmered with faint patterns that danced like tiny galaxies when the light struck just right. Inside, hidden speakers whispered a gentle melody notes drawn from Earth's greatest artists, woven together into a single symphony. The sphere was meant to carry the warmth of human creativity across impossible distances, to speak in a language beyond words. Maya paused and cradled the sphere close to her chest. She closed her eyes and recalled the faces she loved back on. Earth children, laughing as they chased the wind. Poets tracing verses by candlelight. Friends sharing stories under a violet sky. Those memories made her chest ache with longing, but they also filled her with quiet strength. She had traveled farther than any human before her. She would not let fear dim her passion. Ahead, 2 silent sentries stood guard, their armor reflecting the pale light. They bowed their heads slightly as Maya approached, then stepped aside. Maya offered them a soft smile, her eyes bright with sincerity. She felt the weight of expectations on both sides, her own people's hope for peaceful exchange, and the abhorred demand for disciplined conduct. Every step felt heavy, yet each one carried her closer to a moment that could change history. Across the corridor, Dr. Lyris Vihal observed from behind a transparent panel. Her tall frame was still and perfect beneath the station's glow. Her skin was the color of fresh ivory, and her eyes, gray and deep, seemed to reflect every spark of light in the hall. Lyris had spent years studying alien behavior, yet she had never encountered anything like human emotion. Emotions were unpredictable and often led to error. She believed in data, in logic, in the clarity of the mind unclouded by feeling. As Maya paused before the laboratory door, she took a steadying breath and let the music from her sphere fill the hall. The notes were soft at first, like a ripple. Across still water, then grew richer, carrying hints of laughter, tears, and hope. Lyris felt a strange stirring in her chest, as though an unseen hand traced faint patterns on her ribs. She narrowed her eyes and pressed a hand to her recorder, making sure every vibration was captured. Maya entered the lab and bowed gracefully. "Dr. Vehal," she said, her voice calm and warm. "Thank you for granting me this meeting. I bring a gift from Earth's, our art, our stories, our hope." Words floated in the sterile room, soft but full of life. She placed the sphere on a polished table. Light danced across its curves, painting luminous trails on the walls. Lyra stepped forward, her posture precise, her expression controlled. Yet her chest rose and fell in a rhythm she had not intended. She studied Maha's steady gaze and the sphere's gentle glow. "I am honored to receive you, Envoy Solon," Lyris replied, her voice measured. She motioned to a chair. "Please, sit." Maya sat and unfolded her hands in her lap, as open as the day outside. She watched Lyris with hopeful eyes, trusting that this moment could build a bridge between 2 very different worlds. Lyris, trained to observe without bias, felt a flicker of something like curiosity, perhaps even wonder ignited within her. She had approached this meeting as a scientist, certain of her methods. Now she sensed a challenge to her beliefs. Could emotion be more than a distraction? Could it be a force for unity? The station's hum seemed to soften around them. For the first time, 2 souls from distant corners of space shared a silent question. What might grow when passion and reason stand side by side? In that hushed laboratory, under the twin suns that filtered through high windows, a new story began, one of art, of science, and of hope that outshone even the brightest stars. The next morning, Maya stood quietly inside the Hala Theater, surrounded by curious eyes. The walls of the large room shimmered with light, ready to show whatever she wished to share. Dozens of abhorred scientists sat in silence, their long fingers resting on glowing pads. At the center of them all was Dr. Lyris Vehal, still calm and unreadable. Watching Maya like a puzzle she couldn't quite solve, Maya took a deep breath. Her heart beat faster than usual, but she didn't try to hide. She welcomed it. It meant she was alive. It meant she cared. She stepped forward and gently placed her ceramic sphere on the floor. A soft chime echoed through the room, and the holoprojectors came to life. Colors exploded in the air above. Then paintings from Earth's greatest artists appeared in glowing shapes. A boy reaching for the stars, a mother holding her child. Under falling snow, rivers glowing with fireflies. Faces full of laughter, grief, and hope. Maya spoke softly as each image appeared. This, she said, pointing to a painting, was made during Earth's darkest time, yet it sings of light. It was painted by someone who had nothing but still believed in tomorrow. The Aporids watched in silence. Their culture did not create art. They recorded events, but they never expressed feeling. They studied facts but avoided emotion. To them, passion was something dangerous, something that had destroyed many early civilizations, including their own past. Maya knew this. But she wasn't afraid. She continued to speak, showing the music of Earth. Gentle piano notes filled the theater, then voices in harmony, then wild, joyful drums that made the floor feel alive. She closed her eyes and let the song carry her. Her face glowed, her eyes lit up with real, unstoppable passion. Then it happened. Lyris stepped back. It was just one step, almost invisible. But everyone saw it. A quiet shift in the room followed. It was as if a wave of shock passed over the audience. Lyris, the one who never flinched, had recoiled. She had seen something in Maya that she did not understand. Something she could not explain, something that reached inside her and shook her carefully built walls. Maya opened her eyes. She had felt it too. Her heart sank for a moment. Had she done something wrong? Had she frightened them? She looked at Lyris not with anger or fear, but with gentle curiosity. "I'm sorry if that was too much," Maya said softly. "Sometimes our feelings shine brighter than we expect. But they're not dangerous. They're part of who we are." Lyris stared at her, silent. Her fingers moved across her pad, recording every detail. But something inside her had changed. She didn't speak, but her eyes didn't leave Maya's. There was a question hiding behind them, one she didn't know how to ask. The rest of the scientists began whispering among themselves. Was the human a threat? Was this passion some kind of energy? Was it even safe to be in the same room? Maya stayed still. She didn't run. She didn't defend herself. She let her emotions stay visible, like light through glass. She hoped they would understand feelings were not a weakness. They were a gift. At the end of the presentation, the music faded. The lights dimmed. Maya bowed her head slightly. "You," she said, "for letting me share who we are." No one clapped. Aporids didn't express approval like humans. Bulleted. Emphasa penta lesa Leslie and Lisa ad and weapons sefer when with sensing a mess that found the I'm since They stayed still and thoughtful. Something had changed, even if they couldn't admit it yet. As Maya walked toward the door, she glanced back once. Lyris was still watching her, but now there was a flicker in her eyes like the smallest spark of a flame. Not fear, not confusion, curiosity, maybe, even awe. And Maya smiled to herself, knowing that the first wall had just begun to crack. That evening, the lab was quiet. Most of the Aporit scientists had returned to their quarters, still whispering about what they had seen in the hall of theater. But Dr. Lyris Viahal remained behind, sitting alone in the soft blue glow of her desk screen. The images from Maya's presentation kept replaying in her mind, the paintings, the music, the fire in the human's eyes. She had never seen anything like it. And she couldn't stop thinking about it. Lyris had spent her life in study. She believed in structure, reason, and silence. Feelings were considered unstable among her people, wild, unmeasurable, and unnecessary. But now, for the first time, she questioned that belief. Could emotion be more than chaos? Could it carry meaning? She turned to the data logs. Maya's heartbeat had spiked during the music. Her brainwaves had formed strange, beautiful patterns. The monitors had captured vibrations, colors, sounds, frequencies never seen before. It wasn't just emotion, it was energy, living, breathing. Energy. Lyris tapped her communicator. "Envoy Maya Solon," she said calmly. "I request your presence in Lab 12 for further testing. Voluntary, of course." Maya's voice came back warm and cheerful. "I'd love to. I've been hoping you'd ask." An hour later, Maya stood once again in the center of the lab. She looked tired but happy, like someone who had walked a long road and still had strength to smile. Her eyes held that same light. As before, soft but fierce. "What do you want to know, Dr. Viahal?" Maya asked gently. Lyris walked slowly around her, holding a slim scanning rod. "Everything," she said. "Tell me how you create this passion, this spark inside you. Is it learned? Is it natural?" Maya smiled. "It's both. It comes from living, from caring, from remembering the people you love and the dreams you carry." "Show me," Lyris said. So Maya began to speak. She told stories, simple, honest ones, about growing up on a small island, about the first time she saw snow, about losing her brother in a storm, and how she found hope again through painting the sea. As she spoke, the sensors glowed. The air around her shimmered. Her voice became color and movement. Lyris watched the readings change. Waves of emotional resonance moved through the room. The machines responded not with confusion but with harmony. Maya's feelings were not disorder. They were rhythm, pattern, life. For the first time in her life, Lyris felt something stir inside her, not fear, not logic, but something softer, a memory, a moment long buried. "When I was a child," Lyris said suddenly, "my mother took me to the mountain observatory. We watched comets pass for hours. I remember feeling small, but also full, like I was part of something vast and beautiful." Maya turned to her, surprised but calm. "That's emotion, Lyris." "That's what I feel too." Lyris blinked, startled by her own words. She hadn't meant to share that memory. It had come out on its own, like a bird finding an open window. Maya walked closer, not invading, just present. "You see, passion isn't dangerous. It connects us, even across species." Lyris nodded slowly. For the first time, she didn't analyze. She didn't record. She just felt. The lab was silent except for the gentle hum of the machines. But in that silence, something had shifted. A wall had lowered. A boundary had blurred. Lyris looked at Maya not as a subject, not as a guest, but as a companion on a shared path. A human who had opened a door no one knew existed. "I believe," Lyris said softly, "we are standing at the edge of something new." Maya, eyes still glowing with quiet fire, whispered back, "Let's step through it together." The next morning, the station felt different. Something quiet and invisible had changed. The long white halls were still clean and bright, but whispers now echoed in corners where only silence used to live. Scientists who had always walked with straight backs and calm faces now glanced at each other with curious eyes. The story of Dr. Lyris and the human envoy had begun to spread. Some called it a breakthrough. Others called it dangerous. Maya sat in the small garden dome, her fingers brushing the petals of glowing red flowers that bloomed without soil. Her thoughts were heavy, but her heart stayed hopeful. She could feel the change small, like the first crack of dawn, but it was there. She looked up as Lyris entered the dome, her face unreadable as always. But her steps were no longer cold. Lyra sat down beside her without a word. For a while, they just listened to the quiet buzz of insects and the slow hum of the station's power. Finally, Maya spoke. "They're talking about me, aren't they?" Lyris nodded. "Yes, some believe your emotions are a new form of communication. Others believe you are a threat." Maya sighed. "I'm not here to harm anyone. I just want us to understand each other. Isn't that the whole point of peace?" Lyris looked down at her hands. "Abhorrids fear what they cannot measure. It's what they cannot control. For centuries, we chose silence over emotion to avoid the chaos that once destroyed our world. But after meeting you, I wonder, did we also lose something beautiful in the process?" Maya smiled gently. "Maybe we both lost something, but maybe we can help each other find it again." Just then, a message appeared on Lyris's communicator. She read it carefully, and her eyes darkened slightly. "The council has called an emergency meeting," she said. "They want to decide if your presence here should continue." Maya's heart sank. "So they're going to vote on me?" Lyris nodded slowly. "They believe it is safer to return you to your ship. But we've come so far," Maya whispered. "Can't they see that?" "I will speak for you," Lyris said. Her voice was quiet but steady. "You've opened something inside me I thought was long buried. I can't explain it with data, but I know it's real." Later that day, Maya stood before the council in the great circle chamber, apported. Figures in silver robes surrounded her, their glowing eyes watching closely. The room was silent, tense. Lyra stepped forward, facing the highest speaker. "Maya Solon," she said, "is not here to spread danger. She is here to remind us that feeling is not weakness. Emotion can be a guide, power, even ... a healing force." The council whispered. Among themselves, one of them stood. "Emotion once burned our cities. We chose order to survive. What if this human spark burns us again?" Maya stepped forward, her voice calm but full of warmth. "You chose order to survive. We chose emotion. To heal? Maybe now is the time to share both." The chamber went still. Lyris looked at Maya, and for the first time, she smiled, not a full smile, but a soft one, honest and new. "I will not let them send you away," she said, her voice firm. "Even if I must stand alone." Maya felt a quiet tear slip down her cheek, not from sadness, but from the deep. Warm knowing that something important had been born between them. Not just a friendship, not just understanding, but a beginning. The council did not speak for a long time. Inside the grand chamber, silence wrapped around everyone like a heavy blanket. Maya stood still, her hands folded in front of her. Audrey's remained by her side, calm on the outside, but inside her heart beat faster than it ever had. She had never spoken out in front of the council before. She had never needed to. But today, something inside her had changed, and it refused to stay silent. Finally, the head speaker rose. "We will allow one final demonstration," he said. "A proof of this emotional energy. Then we will decide." The room slowly emptied, but Maya and Lyris remained behind, quiet and thoughtful. "A final chance," Maya said softly. "That's all we need." That night, they returned to Lab 12. The room was filled with soft lights and humming machines, but the center of attention was the resonance chamber, a place used for testing sound waves and neural patterns. Now, repurposed for something no one had ever imagined. Lyris prepared the instruments with careful hands. Maya watched her, noticing how different she looked. Now like a cold scientist and more like a woman who had touched something deeply personal. "I've programmed the chamber to measure every kind of signal light, sound, emotion even." "Memory," Lyris said. "But we don't know what will happen." Maya smiled. "We don't need to know. Just need to feel it." She stepped into the center of the chamber. The walls around her shimmered, ready to record. She closed her eyes and let herself remember, her mother's voice singing her to sleep. The first time she painted a sunrise, the day she said goodbye to someone she loved, and then She opened her eyes and began to speak. She told the story of Earth, not just as a planet, but as a living soul. She spoke of love and loss, of dreams and heartbreak, of music that made people cry and laughter, that healed pain. As her voice filled the room, something strange began to happen. The machines glowed, the air shimmered, the walls echoed not with sound but with feeling. Colors swirled in the air, gentle and bright golden warmth, deep blue longing, soft green. Hope, it was not just a performance. It was a connection. Everyone watching felt it. They didn't just hear Maha's story. They lived it. Lyris watched in awe. The data streamed faster than her eyes could read. But what mattered more than the numbers was the feeling inside her chest. It swelled like music. It hurt and healed at the same time. Then, something incredible happened. The resonance chamber pulsed with light. And for a brief moment, every Apord in the room felt what Maya felt. Not through language, not through thought, but through pure, shared emotion. When it ended, there was silence again, but this time it was filled with wonder. Maya stepped out of the chamber, her face tired but glowing. "Well?" she asked softly. Lyris turned to her, her eyes moist with something unspoken. "You've done it," she whispered. "You've shown them." The next day, the council met again. Their faces were still serious, but their voices had softened. "You have proven that emotion is not a weapon," the head speaker said. "It is a bridge. You may remain." Maya exhaled deeply, her shoulders relaxing. She turned to Lyris, and for the first time, they didn't need to say anything. Their eyes met, and in that quiet space, everything was understood. Two worlds had touched. Two hearts had opened, and a future had begun. The great dome of the station was brighter than usual. Its walls shimmered with soft starlight, and every seat was filled with Aporids and visitors. For the first time in the station's long history, a public event was being held not for facts or data, but for feeling. There were no screens showing charts, no reports being read. Only a stage, a quiet projector, and two beings who had changed everything. Maya stood near the edge of the platform, dressed in a soft silver suit that caught the light with every move. Her heart beat quickly, but not from fear, from hope. She looked over the crowd and saw faces she had once thought cold, now softened with interest. They weren't just observing her. They were waiting to feel something again. Beside her stood Lyris, still calm but no longer unreadable. Her presence was strong, her steps sure. She no longer questioned her own emotions. She had accepted them. And more than that, she was ready. To share them, the resonance generator sat between them, humming softly. It no longer needed to be explained. Everyone knew what it did. Now it connected feelings across minds. Without language, without confusion, Maya took a breath and began. "Today, we don't share knowledge. We share something deeper, something that cannot be written in reports. We share who we are." She reached out and touched the projector. A soft blue light filled the dome. Her memories began to appear in gentle colors and shapes, waves crashing on a beach, a child running through a garden, a hug given on a rainy day. The room grew still as the audience felt Maya's warmth, her joy, her longing. Then Lyra stepped forward. She placed her hand next to Maya's at first. There was only silence, then dash light. A golden glow spread from the center, showing images of an Apord child staring at the stars, drawing maps of galaxies, dreaming quietly in a silent home. The feelings that came were not loud or wild. They were deep. Wonder, loneliness, the soft ache of wanting to understand, and then something unexpected happened. The two memory streams, Maya's and Lyris's, began to blend. The waves of Earth met the stars of Apord space. The garden and the sky melted together. The emotions mixed into something new, shared, beautiful, whole. Gasps echoed through the dome. People in the audience closed their eyes. Some held hands. Some even wept quietly, not out of sadness, but because they had felt something real, something gentle and healing. For a long time, no one spoke. Then the head speaker stood, his voice always so formal, now held softness. What we have seen here is not only science, it is peace. A peace built not by control but by connection. He stepped forward, looked at Maya, and said words that made her eyes fill with tears. You are not just welcome, you are needed. Maya bowed her head deeply, overwhelmed with emotion. She had come so far, uncertain if her gift would be understood. And now, in this vast place of stars and silence, her voice had been heard. Lyris turned to her. You gave us feeling, she said. We gave you trust. Together, we gave something new to the galaxy. Maya nodded. And it's only the beginning. As the dome lights dimmed and the stars outside sparkled brighter than ever, the people inside felt closer, not just to each other, but to something greater. Not power, not control, but unity, built. The sun rose slowly over the Eon research station, casting golden rays across its shining towers. Inside, the halls felt warmer than before, than because the temperature had changed, but because the people had. A gentle hum of conversation now filled the corridors. Smiles were shared. Eyes met longer. It was a new beginning. Maya Solon stood in her small guest room, packing her belongings. Her hands moved slowly, her heart full. Her mission was almost over. She had come to this distant station as a stranger, carrying only a small sphere and a heart full of hope. She was leaving as a friend, someone who had helped open a door that no one even knew existed. The ceramic sphere rested on the table, still glowing softly with Earth's light and music. She picked it up and held it close, remembering all the moments that had led to this one, the first meeting, the fear in the scientist's eyes. The way Lyris had stepped back, then later stepped forward. Every moment had been worth it. A soft chime rang at the door. It opened to reveal Lyris, standing tall and calm, but with a new softness in her eyes. She carried no data pad today, just a small crystal object in her hand, a gift. Maya smiled. You came. I had to, Lyris said. You're leaving, Maya nodded. My time here is done. Earth is calling me home. They stood quietly, for a moment, looking at each other with the kind of understanding that only grows between hearts that have truly connected. Lyris stepped forward and placed the crystal gift in Maya's hand. This is for you. It holds a recording of our shared resonance or memories. My memories joined as one. It's a new kind of record. Maya looked down at the gift, her throat tight. Thank you. This ... means everything. Lyris hesitated, then said, You taught me to feel, to remember, to care. And you, Maya whispered, you listened. Outside, the launch platform was ready. The crowd had gathered not with signs or ceremony, but with quiet respect. Aporids who had once feared emotion now waved, smiled, and bowed. They had changed one feeling at a time. As Maya stepped toward the ship, the lights of the platform reflected in her eyes. Lyris walked beside her until the very end. Will I see you again? Lyris asked. Maya turned to her, her voice full of warmth. Well, we've just started something. Earth will send more envoys, and you'll be welcome there too. Lyris gave the smallest nod, but her eyes said more than words ever could. Maya stepped onto the ramp. Before the doors closed, she turned one last time and held up the crystal. Keep feeling, she said, even when it's hard. Lyris raised her hand. I will. As the ship lifted into the sky, a trail of light followed. It's soft, steady, beautiful. Inside, Maya sat by the window, her hand resting on the sphere. Her heart full of peace. She had done it not with power, not with force, but with passion, honesty, and heart. And somewhere deep in the stars, a new story was already beginning, one where humans and Aporids would build a future not on fear, but on feeling. Together.